Welcome to the American mishmash. We're rhinos, we're conservatives, we're lefty lunatics, we're classic liberals, we're libertarians, we're people who do not care, and somehow we have to win a majority. Let's get to Mike Johnson, who, first of all, he puts CNN in its place within a couple seconds. But I also want to talk about this is a whole lot of Paul Ryan on Neil Cavuto. These are two never Trumpers. Very interesting stuff, because these are the kinds of people in the mushy middle that are going to decide this election. They're people who do not like either candidate. I'm a huge Trump fan. I will make his case all day. I can make his case all day. But this is about strategy. So welcome to Doug in Exile. Watch this. Paul Ryan on Neil Cavuto.
Mr. Speaker, you've been saying two-tier system of justice for some time. Here's the president's son being convicted on 3 counts. Doesn't that undercut your claims?
Okay, so first of all, this is CNN challenging Speaker Mike Johnson, saying Hunter Biden got convicted on 3 counts for illegally owning a gun. And doesn't that take away your argument, Mike Johnson, that there's a two-tier justice system? Here's Mike Johnson.
It doesn't. Every case is different, and clearly the evidence was overwhelming here. I don't think that's the case in the Trump trial. And all the charges that have been brought against him have been obviously brought for political purposes. Hunter Biden is a separate instance.
Okay, so that's pretty clear. You know, he's clearly coming out and saying Hunter Biden, the charges were absolutely clear, number one. Number two, he's not a candidate running for president to being targeted. Number three, he's in a jury of his peers. He went before a jury in Washington, D.C. to actually face people of his own party, unlike Trump, who had to go into hostile territory of people who were not from his party. He had a sympathetic judge. You know, but a sympathetic judge with a jury of Hunter Biden's peers said, you're guilty. So, you know, well, anyways, here's Paul Ryan on Neil Cavuto.
You buy that?
Yeah. I think that was Manu Raju. I recognize his voice. He used to do the same thing to me in the hallway.
Exactly.
Is that what walked through? Yeah, I do buy that. Now, look, there's a lot of Trump cases. This one here in New York, I think, was a bogus case. Alvin Bragg ran for office saying, I'm going to get Trump. Then he got it. He twisted a misdemeanor into a felony.
Now, this is Paul Ryan, a never Trumper of never Trumpers. And that's why I'm putting him on this show. I like when Trump's enemies make his case for him, because then you know it's not politics. Paul Ryan would never work in the Trump administration. He will never vote for Trump, ever.
Paul Ryan, you're a piece of garbage. You're a piece of garbage, and we should kick you out of the party.
And he said, Bragg is a politicized hit job, no evidence, totally bogus. Just let that sink in for a second, because Paul Ryan, that's where you get the best answers from. The best defense for Trump is his own enemy said, this is politics. You can't make a stronger case than that. I'm an ally of Trump's. I love him. I'm rooting for him. I have politics. I have bias. I'm happy to support him. I love making fun of his enemies. I love making fun of Alvin Bragg. Paul Ryan doesn't.
And got 34 felony convictions of it. If his name was Donald Cavuto, I bet these charges would not have been brought against him. So, yeah, I think unequal justice was applied in that particular Trump case. As I mentioned, anybody who's bought a gun, you know, you fill out the form. That's just an open and shut case for Hunter Biden.
Okay, super clear. Hunter Biden is guilty also, not because he's an enemy, but because it was just so clear, the crime. Boom, boom, boom. So this is not about political witch hunts. This is about justice.
So, but I do think this Bragg case was really, and I'm not a Trump fan, but I think he was totally victimized. But I think that was a completely bogus case.
Now, just because that's coming from him does not mean he's going to vote for him either. But this is what I mean by Paul Ryan is going to start using Trump's vocabulary. This is how right Trump is. Trump brings up lawfare. At first, the Republicans made fun of him. How dare you bring up lawfare? Now, listen to Paul Ryan very carefully here.
Ask about, we are going to have the...
It's lawfare. You know, it's progressive and justifies the means lawfare.
Oh, lawfare. Just like Trump said, it's a witch hunt. Trump's enemies are coming out and defending him. It's not because they're buddies of his. It's not because they want him to win an election. It's because he really is. The Democrats really are ending the justice system as we know it.
Yeah, I think if in a country with 350 million people, this is the choice we have.
Yeah, now he's going to go after Trump, saying in a country of 350 million people, he can't believe that these are our two candidates, Trump and Biden. And I'm only saying he's showing a lot of disrespect to the voters. Okay. You've always only been able to choose from two people who largely do not represent us. I'm sorry. Okay. You have to hold your nose and vote for, who was it? Carter or Reagan? You vote for Reagan. Reagan or Mondale? Clinton, Bush. The idea that Paul Ryan thinks he's some kind of an ideal candidate and the electors really got it right. I got news for you, Paul Ryan. You're no better, no worse than Trump. And Trump has incredible qualities we've never seen in a leader before. And some of them are really weird in that, like, I don't think the guy knows his way around the Constitution at all. I also think no Republican in my lifetime has managed to do 100% conservative constructionists on the Supreme Court. I don't know what the problem is with all these other guys, but they've never been able to do as good with the Supreme Court as Trump. Also, Trump is a bulldozer. And you know what? When you have institutional corruption, you need a bulldozer. He doesn't always have to be principled. He doesn't always have to be conservative. We need a bulldozer.
I, like the majority of Americans, wish we had a different choice than the ones than one we're being presented with.
Yeah, you wish you didn't have a bulldozer. You wish you had another feckless guy. By the way, another thing that I hate about all of Trump's other opponents that he has had to deal with in the Republican Party, they can't win. You can't win. You have one job to win. Ron DeSantis, you might be a better man, a better candidate, but you can't win. So go home. I got nothing for you. You lose, sir. Go home. Ted Cruz, love you, but you can't win. Go home. Paul Ryan, you stood there next to, Romney. You can't win. Go home. I have nothing for you. Trump, you can complain about him all you want, but Trump can win. He can win.
I can't help but think Nikki Haley, the week she was dropping out, she was 16 points on Biden. She'd probably win this thing by 12 points. And
he's mourning that we don't have Nikki Haley. Dude, I'm trying so hard I'm trying to give you some a defense here, Paul Ryan. But some of these guys, their heads are so far up there.
But she is now supporting
Congress. Sure.
Donald Trump.
My point is, it's going to be a very, very close race. I think they're terrible choices that we're being presented with. And that's just the fate of, that's what the primary voters selected. And I regret the fact that that's where we are.
Fine. So you hate us. Big deal. I regret the fact that you ever won anything.
Said, all right, we're rallying around Donald Trump. You had said, though, that would not be the case with you. You had said that he's a populist and an authoritarian narcissist, that character is too important to me, and it's a job that requires the kind of character he just doesn't have. That's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. I agree with that.
Yeah, well, feelings make for terrible masters and great servants, Paul. So set your feelings aside, because guess what? You also are a fallen sinner, and you do not have the character required to make a fist and throw punches, fight for America. You do not love America enough. So you too, by the way, if he was our candidate, I would vote for Paul Ryan. If it was Paul Ryan versus Biden, I'd vote for Paul Ryan, even though he does not have the character required. Neither does Trump have the character. I'll vote for Trump all day. I'm not picking the holiest man on the earth, okay? I need someone just to kind of barely get us by, hold this freaking burning country together for a little bit longer.
I don't support Biden either. I think his policies are terrible. I hate the fact that I feel like I had to write in a Republican like I did the last time in 2020. I voted for him in 2016, hoping that there was going to be a different kind of person in office.
Okay, if it tells you anything about how bad of a strategist Paul Ryan is, anyone who writes in a candidate is a terrible strategist. You've disqualified yourself from leadership. You have no strategy because you're throwing your vote away. You guys have heard me say this before, that if you're going to write in a candidate and if reality doesn't have to come into play of who can actually win, then you ought to write in Jesus or Ronald Reagan's ghost, because neither one of them has a chance to win. And you have to write in, and if reality is no longer, a barometer, you have to write in the holiest person you can think of. So throw your vote away. I got nothing for your tactics. Your tactics are worthless if you're writing characters in.
And I do think characters is a really important issue. If you put yourself above the Constitution as he has done.
But what happened? What
I
turned,
think that makes you
turned
unfit
on
for
that?
office.
Was it the whole January 6th thing?
That's a part of it. I think it's a contribution of factors, but I think it really is just character at the end of the day. And the fact that if you're willing to put yourself above the Constitution, an oath you swear when you take office, in federal office, whether it's president or a member of Congress, you swear an oath to the Constitution. And if you're willing to suborn it to yourself, I think that makes you unfit for office.
Does it?
And if you're not willing to vote against Biden, even if you hate Trump, but you don't hate Biden more, then you don't have the character to defend the Constitution.
Make you worry if he does get elected president that he'll attempt doing that?
I think our institutions are pretty strong.
Oh, good Lord. Where have you been, Pollyanna? Our institutions are pretty strong. Okay, I can't even make the argument. Look at the church. Look at our schools. Look at what they did to Trump. Okay, look what they're doing to people. They're jailing them. You think the institutions are strong? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Well, then guess what? If the institutions are so strong, then it can handle someone like Trump with zero character getting into office. Zero character. If you're not at odds with what Biden did to the southern border, and you're looking at the southern border where we've just now increased illegals coming in by at least 11 million people since Biden's been here, and you think our institutions are strong?
I do think you're talking about all these court cases.
Yeah.
This is just one more chapter or an episode in the deinstitutionalization of our society. In this case, the judicial branch. I do think our institutions are strong enough to endure this.
You're in a fantasy. You got to vote. You got to vote for Trump.
For Paul Ryan to say he's not voting for Donald Trump, that's the problem with some of our Republicans. It's guys like that.
You got to save this country. It's in trouble, Paul Ryan. Alarms are being, there's alarms going off.
We have a separation of powers. We have three separate co-equal branches of government. We're chipping away at them, but they are still strong enough to withstand whatever is going to be thrown at it. January 6th is a good example. January 6th never had a chance of being successful.
That's right. Thank you for admitting that January 6th was in no way a threat and that all of the people crying over it are faking. It was fake. It was a bunch of cosplayers waving flags at our Capitol. Nothing happened. Nothing was threatened. Black Lives Matter, some things were threatened, but nothing. Thank you for admitting it was all just a cosplay, fantasy, Comic-Con drummed up by the news.
Because the institutions were too strong to have anything overturn that. So I don't think, given the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch, and the tension that they have, that we're gonna have anything that disables our democracy.
Good. Then vote for Trump.
Former Attorney General Bill Barr, who also shared your concerns about Donald Trump and his temperament. When I spoke with him, Speaker, he was just resigned to the fact that he's the guy, he's better than the guy presently in there. This is from Bill Barr.
But at the end of the day, this is a question of comparison. It's a question of a choice, a binary choice. And I don't think either should be near the Oval Office. But if one of is going to be, there's no doubt in my mind that it's better for the country, for the Republicans to win the election.
No doubt in his mind. And Bill Barr is supporting Trump. Though he hates Trump, he's a never Trumper, but he knows he loves his country enough. Say it's clear for him, he said, it's clear to vote Republican, clear. And yet it's hazy for Paul Ryan. It's hazy for the walrus, Bolton, to vote for him. It's hazy. They're not sure. They need to wake up. Get with Bill Barr, never Trumper, Trump hater. He's voting Republican.
Yeah, Bill's a good friend of mine. I understand the binary argument. I just don't agree with it. It's just that simple.
He doesn't believe in the binary argument that there is, we're between two choices. You have this one or that one.
Don't go spouting your mouth off and saying you're a conservative. You're spitting in the face of the leader of our party, Donald Trump. I mean, grow up a little bit.
He's going to write in a throwaway protest vote. It's very weird because they'll say the populists are so into purity, like purity of screaming about Donald Trump, that they will make fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene, when really Paul Ryan, they have their own screaming purity and they will lose their country even if they have to stand by their values. I'm just saying, I don't agree with it in politics. I think politics is a mud fight.
Mike Johnson, your successor, we've been mentioning him. There does seem to be retribution in the air without calling it retribution. A lot of people are criticizing Republicans for what they interpret as, going after the system that undid Donald Trump.
Yes, and Mike Johnson's is talking about and articulating, leading the way for retribution. We have to get the Democrats back. Not revenge. It's very different than revenge. It's not done in hate. It's done in having actual proper principles of what is the best strategy to restore our government. I don't think it's to keep blindly following your principles as the Democrats keep kicking you in the nuts.
Or the Alvin Bragg situation. This is what Mike Johnson had to say about that it's not about retribution or doing Donald Trump's bidding. Take a look at this.
Alvin Bragg, who by some estimates or early estimates, he received almost $1 million of federal taxpayer funds in the last year to do what? To have politicized prosecutions of a political opponent of his party. He ran on that. That was the premise of his election to district attorney.
I certainly understand where you're coming from, Mr. Speaker, but are you weaponizing the House the same way you say Democrats were weaponizing the DOJ to get what they wanted? Are you just doing it in a bigger platform, the entire House of Representatives?
No, there is a very clear distinction between what we are doing and what they have done in weaponizing the judicial system.
Yeah, I actually wish he would weaponize the House, the Speaker of the House. But I do support him. I think he kind of gets it. I think he's pushing back. What do you guys think of Mike Johnson? Are we still on board with it? What do you guys think of Paul Ryan? Who here, if Trump, let's say if Trump did not for some reason become our candidate, would you still vote Republican? Because I would 100%. Let me know if you would in the comments below. I'm Doug in Exile.